Next up on my review list here, I think I got two more here. When I went through, as I said, I gave a review of Superman Man of Steel Volume 1, which was the John Byrne. That's after Crisis, of course, in the 80s when they kind of set up and rebooted the DC Universe there after one of their Crisis events, the first one actually. I remember the John Byrne era, and as I said, for Superman, he made some missteps, some really crappy missteps, but for the whole, he treated Superman wonderfully, iconically, and it was really great. So I was going through and reading those, and I was going to review those and talk about, which issues are great and which arcs are great, which ones, kind of missed the mark here or there, whatever. But I was having such a good time reading that era again. I love the 90s. That's when I first started getting into comics, the early 90s, 89, 90, whatever. But then I thought, I love that Superman before of that era, because even though I wasn't reading the comics necessarily, that's the Superman that I came to know through the cartoons, through the movies, and so forth. And so rereading, the John Byrne era, because I read them a while ago, but rereading them was a lot of fun. And I thought, let me just spend a little more time, rather than just read the the Superman Man of Steel series of this era. Let me read all of what DC was doing with this post-crisis timeline, and it's a fun place to really exist. Now, some of the books I'd already read that came before the Superman Volume 1, like Batman Year One, or the Catwoman, Sister's Keeper, I think it's called, her origin story from there. So some of the stories I'd already read that I was just kind of moving forward from the Superman, the Man of Steel Volume 1. And I did find, I don't know how authoritative it is, but I found a list on a blog post listed like the graphic novels, the collections of the comics that have been released in order, so the whole DC post-crisis continuity in the 80s. And sometimes one novel will kind of dip back in time a little bit, and there'll be some overlap from the last one or whatever. But I found a pretty fun little, list there. So that's what I've been going through. And the next one in the order really sold me. I was like, oh, I got to read that. It's Etrigan the Demon from the Darkness by Matt Wagner. If there was ever a character besides Batman that Matt Wagner was born to write, it's Etrigan the Demon. If you don't know Etrigan the Demon, he's a demon from hell, but it's not like a demon, sort of the mythological take. Merlin bound him to defend the Round Table and Arthur's castle and reign and all of that. And when Arthur failed, due to Morgana, Etrigan was bound to a human, Jason Blood, this sorcerer. So you might have seen the demon pop up in some cartoons occasionally, crossover cartoons with Batman or the Justice League or whatever. And this is a really cool story. It's about Jason Blood going through and trying to find a way to release him from Etrigan's hold, because Etrigan is with him. It's kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde deal. Not usually, the transformations usually aren't unbidden. Though usually you have to say, gone the form of man, now the demon Etrigan or whatever, or return the form of man or whatever. He has this mantra that he has to say to transform back and forth. But there's inner conflict going on all the time. You get the idea. And Matt Wagner handles this wonderfully. This is a really fun title. It leaves with a startling ending, which is a good conclusion to the story arc. But you kind of want to know, okay, so how did that change? What happened? You really want to know more about it. But The Demon from the Darkness, Matt Wagner, Art Nichols on art, and it's great art too. It's really fun art. In fact, that's just that I miss that art. I miss that style. This kind of that's the universe. That's the DC universe. That I miss. So really great stuff. Say that one more. And of course, the colors and everything are very supernatural and atmospheric for this title. But this was good. I liked it. I was glad I did that. Last review I've got for you tonight. So in my little list that I found there of the post-crisis kind of graphic novel timeline was the Tales of the Green Lantern Corps, Volume 3. My copy has a used copy. It's it used to be a whole library copy, so you see it's got the whole laminate, things on it and stuff. Kind of beat up, but holds together very, very well. This was a really interesting read for me. I'm actually still reading just the last little few pages in it. It's really fun. Now, the Tales of the Green Lantern Corps collect all these stories, and the stories in Volume 1 and 2 happen before the crisis. This picks up right after the crisis. And it's a very different feel from any of the other post-crisis titles that you read. Because if you read Perez's Wonder Woman or, John Byrne's Superman or whatever, they kind of started those characters over and they're giving you their origins again and all of that. You don't go get Hal Jordan's origin here anymore because the Green Lanterns are aware of the crisis. The Guardians were aware of the crisis. The Guardians left this plane of existence or whatever at this point, or left the galaxy at this point, because they felt they had failed by not stopping the Anti-Monitor. So the Green Lanterns are kind of left to do what they want. Still continue their jobs and their roles, but they're not policed. They are policemen. They're galactic policemen, but they're not overseen so much. So the Guardians do tell Hal that the next form of a Guardian themselves, the next iteration of a powerful being like one of the Guardians, is going to evolve eventually on Earth. So Hal goes back to Earth. Hal, at this point, for a time he had stopped being the Green Lantern. Had to do with Starfire. You know who I'm talking about. Ferris, Carol Ferris. What's the word that she came? The name of her character that she became. Anyway, he had to leave his Green Lantern duties for a while, so John comes to fill in for him. So when Hal comes back, John's still doing a great job as Green Lantern, so there's 2 Earth Green Lanterns. I get that. I've always hated the idea of Guy Gardner, though. It's never been explained to me sufficiently why Guy Gardner should also have a ring. I know why, the ring chose him and Hal at the time, and all. It just seemed like a really flimsy excuse to have yet another human with a Green Lantern ring to me. So anyway, John Stewart, thank you. I kept wanting to say John Carter, but I was like, it's not John Carter. It's not John. Yeah, John Stewart. Anyway, so you've got John Stewart, and he, of course, with Kat, has already had the romantic relationship with Kat. She was already there with him on Earth anyway. And you've got the introduction of Kilowog in this title. Salak, Chip, Aricia. They all decide that they're going to stay on Earth then, because if Earth is the next source of this next great evolution of a being like the Guardians, they want to protect Earth. So you've got 7 Green Lanterns there, all on Earth. Occasionally you do dip into what Guy Gardner's doing. Guy Gardner's, what a crap character. Fan Man was trying to convince me that he's actually a good character before they messed him up or whatever he said. He said they messed him up and tried to make him sort of a right-wing zealot, or like a parody of right-wingness or whatever. I don't see that yet, but I'm reading still, so we'll see. But it's just never been justified to me why he mattered as a character to begin with. I just don't get it. If you like Guy Gardner, you like Guy Gardner. Great, good for you. And just as an aside, the fact that they put Nathan Fillion, the man who should have played Hal Jordan, he voiced Hal Jordan, he should have been cast as Hal Jordan, but no, they went with Ryan Reynolds for some ridiculous reason. The fact that he finally gets to play a Green Lantern in a live-action film, and James Gunn puts him in the dumb butt bowl cut and makes him beat Guy Gardner. Did you spit in his face when you gave him that casting information, James Gunn? What a ridiculous idea. No one wants Guy Gardner in any movie in any DC ever. He's like one of the most hated characters ever. I know he's probably got some defenders, and good for you. Glad you like him. You're not going to find sympathy here. So anyway, in all respect to Fan Man, who's got his own real reasons for liking him. I'm not saying he doesn't know what he's talking about. I mean, he clearly knows things I don't. I just don't care to know whatever he knows, because this character annoys me so much. But anyway, Green Lantern Corps Volume 3, you're not jumping into the middle of the story other than that the crisis just happened. And that's pretty much what I'm doing with all of these runs. So it really is a good, it's a fun read too. This is very different. It feels very Silver Age. It feels very Silver Age in that there's exposition-y dialogue. Some of the villains, feel a little Silver Age here and there, and I like that. It's not done in a cheesy manner. It's just sort of a throwback to that nice Silver Age feel. It's not as more serious and this and that, as a lot of the post-crisis stuff is, which I love. I love the feel of George Perez's Wonder Woman, and that tone and everything. But it's, because it's still true to the iconic characters. But this just had like an element of that intergalactic Silver Age fun, where it's like anything can happen. You got an anthropomorphic beaver, for crying out loud, with a power ring. So it's fun. It's a good read. I recommend it if you're into that. I never really read a lot of the Green Lantern stuff, to be honest. I'd read stories about Hal Jordan specifically, but I haven't really read a lot of Green Lantern Corps stuff, in my reading. So it was good. The art is also wonderful. Like, this is the DC universe as I remember it. I mean, that's how that's how a woman should be drawn. that's how a man should be drawn. You just don't see that in comics anymore, and you're not going to. You're not, even from, you know, unless you get into like some of like the indie people, like an Ethan Van Sciver or, you know, Paul Revoche or something like that. Yeah, then you can see some really great true blue comic iterations of men and women and such again. But you're not going to see that in comics today because they won't allow it. More than that, though, they won't. I think even a lot of comic creators who aren't for the wokeness, if you trained and worked in this modern time, it's just kind of in the system. It's just kind of in the ethos to make sure that your women aren't too feminine, aren't too sexual, because that's not right or whatever. And it's this BS. Men should be iconically, idealistically masculine, and women should be iconically, idealistically feminine. That's a comic book. It's not, you know, your freaking Anna Kendrick film, you know, or whatever. So anyway, I recommend this. Green Lantern Corps Volume 3. It's great. I forget which one comes next in my reading list. I think it's the Legacy crossover that kind of got the thing started, you know, really kind of joined all the titles in the post-crisis going forward. So I'll keep, even as I keep going forward with the Legends of the Dark Knight, I'll keep talking about the post-crisis graphic novel reading list that I'm on here as well. Yes, Sound Engraver, I call it the Alan Oppenheimer effect. The man who performed the iconic Skeletor's voice, nah, you can play the character you didn't do. Yeah, when Kevin Smith put him in there as Moss Man. Like, no, screw Luke Skywalker. You don't get to be Skeletor. Alan Oppenheimer's still around, he's Skeletor. That's a whole other thing. I'm gonna get to these super chats in a second, but let me just, Sound Engraver just reminded me of this. What has Kevin Smith ever really done that merits him still being around and still making content, still creating stories? I mean, like, if you're a fan of that kind of goofy comedy like The Clerks or something, maybe you like that. Maybe you like his Dogma film. I don't know, whatever. But he just kind of just insinuated himself into fandom with some Batman comics that weren't very good. He doesn't know how to write the character. How did he get He-Man, for crying out loud? Crapped all over the character. Ends up doing a character that he doesn't really understand or care about even. How does he still have fans? Like, what has he ever done that really merits people supporting him so much? I just don't understand. Like, you could take all of the Kevin Smith stories out of existence right now, and I wouldn't shed a single tear. Like, whatever, I don't care. You know, he's never really done anything that really, truly merited him having such a following to me. And that's just me. And maybe you love him. Whatever. Good for you. I kind of feel the same way about James Gunn. Not to the point. I think James Gunn was perfect for the Guardians of the Galaxy. That was great. But he's doing the same thing. He's like, hey, I do geek stuff now. Yeah, I'm not really into the Superman character, but sure, I'll do his movie. You know, he's doing the same thing. So anyway, super chats that I'm missing here. Eldritch fan, thank you very much. Said, gonna read Clavin's werewolf book. He also wrote a fantasy trilogy. I'll try. But the other genre writers tend to reinvent the wheel when they try jumping. Yeah, I don't know about Clavin. Everything he says about stories, and he just seems like he doesn't really know what he's talking about when he talks about like other stories. I'd like to read his work too to see if he's actually any good on the Rubber Meets the Road and see how it is. But yeah, I just disagree with so much of his assessments of other stories or movies. I really don't think he takes the time to fully think of things. I think he's just too busy telling people to get off his yard. You know, critically, I mean, but that's just me. But you let me know what you think of it. I'll have to give it a chance at some point. Studio Super, thank you very much. Said, in terms of Hal Jordan casting, if he was younger, I'd say Tom Cruise. I mean, if Tom Cruise was younger. The character he played in Top Gun Maverick is basically Hal Jordan type of character. I never put that together, but you're right. Yeah, Maverick pretty much was sort of a Hal Jordan type character. That's a good point. But yeah, I remember when I first heard that that the Green Lantern movie was coming out, and I still haven't seen it. I refused to watch it back in the day because I'm like, screw you. Don't put Ryan Reynolds in there. That should have gone to Nathan Fillion. I was so mad about that. And then, of course, all the stuff with the suit and everything looked ridiculous, so I never bothered seeing it. I'll probably watch it now. Enough time's gone by. Because I have heard so many great things about the animated series that picks up off of the movie. Was actually supposed to be pretty good. So I don't know, I'll probably watch it now, but I was just mad about that. I'm not a big Ryan Reynolds fan anyway. Now, I have nothing against Ryan Reynolds. I'm just not a fan of the characters he likes to play. Like, I don't want to spend time with a Deadpool. I don't want to spend time with a Ryan Reynolds smart-ass character. It's just not a character I enjoy spending time with. He's a great actor portraying that. He does great. He's very successful. He was born to play Deadpool. I'll give you that in a heartbeat. It's just a matter of taste. He just doesn't tend to play the type of characters that I want to spend time with. That's the best way I can say it. So yeah, when he was Hal Jordan, I'm like, that's not Hal Jordan. He's not, what? No, what are you doing? And it was just such a scoff to Nathan Fillion, as though he wouldn't have had enough of a following or something. He had just come off of like Firefly and whatnot in the day, and Serenity. He was huge at the time. There was no reason not to give that to him back then. Anyway. What's going on in the chat here? I'm just over my hour mark, but I'll check in with you guys a bit here. Yep, I agree here, Stephen. The Netflix abomination Master of the Universe Revulsions did more harm to the He-Man mythos than any other story, and that includes He-Man Thundercat. Crossover. They did the stupid crossover in which they basically killed off He-Man in the beginning of it, which was ridiculous. But yeah, Kevin Smith just knowingly crapped all over the He-Man mythos, and to even try to defend himself. Like, you don't do that and then just try to pretend like, what? No, what an insincere douchebag. He deserves for his career to go down in flames, and I hope it does. I really hope it does, because you don't do those kinds of crimes against mythology. But see, he's not going to. Today's culture of need to consume the new thing, gotta have the new thing, will just keep anybody relevant, and it's depressing. But that's why I just say screw you, Hollywood. I'm reading the old stuff. I'm watching the old stuff. I'm watching a lot of 90s series now. I never did finish out the X-Files completely, so I'm watching that. But there's so many other little series that were like short-lived 90s series that I never really could have grabbed back in the day unless you were watching it, or sometimes they weren't even aired to completion back in the day, you know, before they were canceled. But you can get access to them now, you know, like little shows. There was a spin-off of the Tales from the Crypt that was another anthology series, but it was more sci-fi stuff, which I forget the name of it right now. That looked interesting. There's a show called American Gothic, which looked pretty interesting. A lot of cool things that I'm just going to spend my time checking out and whatnot. So, Eldritch Fan said, Claven's early thrillers are great. Animal, I didn't even know he'd done more than that. Animal Horror, you say that's good? Maybe I should start with some of those earlier ones. I mean, even if I liked Andrew Claven's work, he won't be the first or last author that I think is an idiot and should stop talking and just write, like Stephen King. Stephen King should really just shut his stupid mouth and just write. Matthew Flynn, thank you for your super chat there. What do you think of Dan Abernethy as a writer? I remember liking some of his stuff. I can't place anything just right off the bat but he's written comics and stuff like that. If I'm thinking about the same person that you are, maybe it's a person with a different name, but I'm blanking on the specific titles. Studio Super says, before going, folks, remember, if you have trouble consuming stories responsibly, get a story buddy to check you when you sit up. That's right. Slip up. That's right. All right. One thing I'll do here before I leave, I want to show you one more thing. I haven't told her I'm going to do this. She'd probably tell me I shouldn't, but I'm going to do it anyway because I don't care, because I'm my own man. Sound Engraver has, when you talk about writing for me, I like having something on in the background. I can't have my favorite bands. I can't play, Aerosmith or Whitesnake in the background because I'll end up listening to the song and really trying to follow that. Sound Engraver does this amazing electronic music. But more than that, of course, Sound Engraver is a master violinist. In her music, she's always tried to pride herself in this music. It stimulates the mind. It's not a little pop hook that kind of becomes an earworm and sinks into your head and distracts you. It actually kind of stimulates the mind where you're able to do stuff. She just put out a new album recently, and she's selling it on her website here, which is soundengraver.com. And it is the coolest stuff because she's actually paired now her violin with the electronic stuff that she does. And it sounds awesome. I'll just play you a clip here of some of it. You can download it for $4. It's on Sound Engraver's website, soundengraver.com. It's really great. I had to mute my mic because I don't know if it's going to feed back, but that is so cool. Kind of wait for the violin to come back in. It's really good. It's 4 tracks, and they're long tracks. So, you know, it feels like music to a video game, honestly. Video game battle or something like that. Just kind of keep you going and stimulate you to go for it. Oh, the violin comes later, yeah. So, it's 4 tracks. It's good stuff.
You like to stop the music because we can't hear you that well.
Okay. My sound engraver, who is very meticulous about sound, she knows that I'm playing her music and I'm presenting it in such a way that doesn't really showcase the music correctly. So she's in the comments going, "Listen to it with earphones," and she's telling me, "Oh, you probably shouldn't stop playing it because we can't hear it very well." So let me just not play it anymore, so I don't transgress the the sound engraver specifications. But the website is there, soundengraver.com. Just wanted to show you that because it helps me with writing, honestly. It's quite good. But anyway, so that's all for tonight. I am going to finally stop talking and relax. But it's been really fun hanging out with you guys. Had a nice, good, long stream. Got a lot of things chatted over and got some reviews done. I'll put them out as their own things. I'll try to get to a comic store run again and put that up soon. But yes, keep going forth and consuming stories responsibly in the new year, which means just turn your back on Hollywood and their crap, or the modern publishing industry and its crap. Just go back to the tried and true stuff. They'll never stop with any way that matters or with any sort of long-term implications unless they see that you're ignoring them. It's the only way they will stop. Ignore the little bones they throw. All right, I'm done. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a great weekend and a great week. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue stories you love. Thanks for watching.